I stared at my phone screen, the banking app showing a balance of $17.62 where $38,000 should have been. The room spun. Across the table, my brother-in-law Jake caught my eye and smirked. "Something wrong, Garry." When I confronted him about my drained account, he actually snorted. "We needed it more than you. 10 years of sacrifice gone in one weekend." My hands trembled as I reached for my bag. "Then you won't mind what's coming next." Before you hear what happened, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from today. Growing up in rural Michigan was never easy. My father spent more time with the bottle than with his children. Most nights I would fall asleep to the sound of him yelling at my mother or breaking something in the kitchen. Our small, drafty house always felt cold even in summer. Not from the temperature, but from the emptiness inside it. By 16, I was working at the local grocery store after school, saving every penny I could. I watched other kids my age buying video games or going to the movies while I worked overtime on weekends. My father would mock me relentlessly. "Look at the big man thinking he's better than us." He would slur his breath heavy with cheap whiskey. Sometimes he would demand money, and when I refused, his anger would explode like a sudden storm. My sister Amanda was 4 years younger than me. I did everything I could to protect her, often taking the blame for things she did just to spare her from our father's rage. "You always look out for me, Garry," she would say, her eyes wide with gratitude. Those moments made everything worthwhile. After graduating high school, I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. Mornings at a construction site, evenings at a call center, and weekends at a gas station. Every dollar went toward community college tuition. Sleep became a luxury I rarely experienced. My routine was mechanical work study with barely enough time to eat or shower. The day I got accepted into a computer science program was one of the proudest moments of my life. I had secured a scholarship that would cover most costs, but I still needed to work part-time to afford rent and food. My apartment was a tiny studio with a leaking sink and noisy neighbors, but it was mine. For the first time, I felt in control of my life. My father never congratulated me. At family gatherings, he would introduce me as the one who thinks books are more important than family. Amanda would give me sympathetic looks, but she never stood up to him either. Our relationship became strained as she remained at home, seemingly content to follow in our parents' footsteps. After graduation, I landed a job as a junior software developer in Chicago. The salary was modest, but it felt like a fortune compared to what I was used to. I moved into a small apartment, nothing fancy but clean and safe. Each month, I diligently put money into savings, watching my bank account grow slowly but steadily. When our father died of liver failure 7 years ago, the funeral became the breaking point for our family. Amanda accused me of abandoning them. "You could have helped us financially all these years," she screamed at me in the funeral home parking lot. "Dad was right about you. All you care about is yourself." Her words cut deeper than any knife could. I walked away that day and hadn't spoken to any family member since, until 3 months ago. The call came on a Sunday morning while I was making coffee. Seeing Amanda's name on my phone screen after 7 years of silence made my hand freeze midair. "Garry, are you there?" Her voice sounded different, softer, mature. "Amanda." "Is everything okay?" I asked, unsure what to say after so many years. "I know it's been a long time." She paused and I could hear her taking a deep breath. "I want to apologize for everything. For what I said at the funeral, for not understanding what you went through, for everything." The conversation lasted 2 hours. She told me about her husband, Jake, whom she had married 5 years ago. She spoke about therapy and how she had come to realize how toxic our family dynamics had been. "I want us to be brother and sister again, Garry. Real family, not the broken mess we grew up with." Her words stirred something in me. Despite building a good life professionally, I had always felt lonely. My colleagues were friendly, but I kept them at arm's length, afraid to let anyone get too close. The thought of having family again, a real family, was tempting. "We are having a family reunion next month," Amanda said. "Nothing fancy, just a weekend at our house in Pennsylvania. Would you come?" "Everyone has changed, Garry. We have all grown up. After a week of deliberation, I agreed. The 6-hour drive to their house gave me plenty of time to rehearse conversations and prepare for awkward moments. I had expected a modest home similar to the ones we grew up around. Instead, I pulled up to a sprawling 2-story house with manicured lawns and a 3-car garage, a far cry from our childhood home. Amanda ran out to greet me, throwing her arms around my neck with such force I nearly lost my balance. "You came," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Her husband Jake stood in the doorway, tall, with broad shoulders and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "The famous Garry," he said, extending his hand. "Amanda has told me so much about you, the family genius who made it big in the city." Something about his tone made me uneasy, but I brushed it off as first meeting nerves. As Amanda showed me to the guest room, she bombarded me with questions about my life. "So what is it like working for a tech company? Do they pay well? I heard programmers make a fortune these days." The questions continued throughout dinner. Jake seemed particularly interested in my career trajectory. "So at your level we are talking what 6 figures?" he asked, casually refilling my wine glass for the 3rd time. Our Aunt Barbara and Uncle Tom arrived later that evening, followed by our cousin Tyler and his wife. Each greeting came with subtle comments that struck me as odd. "Here comes the rich city boy," Tyler joked, punching my arm a little too hard. "Maybe you can help us poor country folk out, huh?" "Garry has always been the successful one," Aunt Barbara said, patting my cheek. "We are so proud that one of us made it. And so generous too, I am sure." I brushed off these comments, attributing them to awkward attempts at reconnecting. Little did I know they were setting the stage for what was to come. The first day of the reunion started pleasantly enough. Jake fired up the barbecue while Amanda organized games in the backyard. They had a large in-ground pool where the children splashed and played. Tyler challenged me to a swimming race, which turned into an afternoon of friendly competition. As the day progressed, I noticed Jake drinking heavily. With each beer, his jokes became increasingly hostile. "So Garry, do you actually do any work? Or do you just sit in your fancy office collecting paychecks?" He laughed, but there was an edge to his voice that made others look away uncomfortably. Throughout the day, Amanda kept asking to use my phone. "Mine is charging," she would say. Or, "Your camera is so much better." Each time she would disappear with it for several minutes, before returning it with a casual thanks. During a quiet moment by the pool, my cousin Tyler sat next to me. "Man, it is good to see you," he said, slurring slightly from the beer. "Amanda told everyone you are loaded now. Said you are the family success story." His words made me uncomfortable. "I do okay," I said cautiously, "but I am not rich by any means." Tyler laughed and patted my shoulder. Sure. But compared to the rest of us, Amanda said you have got enough saved for a house in Chicago. That is like what, hundreds of thousands?" I changed the subject quickly, but the interaction left me unsettled. Still, when we all gathered for dinner that evening, the mood was genuinely warm. Stories from our childhood were shared, but for once they focused on the rare, happy moments rather than the trauma. For a few hours it felt like having the family I had always wished for. Later that night, Amanda found me on the back porch staring at the stars. "Thank you for coming," she said, sitting beside me. "I know it was not easy after everything." "It has been better than I expected," I admitted. She took my hand, her expression suddenly serious. "I want you to know that I understand now why you left. Dad was terrible to you, and I was too blind to see it. I am so sorry for everything, Garry. I want us to be real family again." Her sincerity brought tears to my eyes. Maybe people could change. Maybe we could rebuild what was broken. The second day started with a moment of panic when I could not find my wallet. After searching frantically, I found it behind the dresser in my room, as if it had fallen there. But I distinctly remembered placing it on the nightstand. Later that morning, I noticed my laptop had been moved slightly from where I had left it. The changes were subtle, almost imperceptible, but I had always been meticulous about my belongings. While getting a drink from the kitchen, I overheard Jake and Amanda arguing in hushed tones in the adjacent laundry room. "We need to stick to the plan," Jake was saying. "He is not stupid." I know that Amanda hissed back, but we cannot rush this." They fell silent when I deliberately made noise with the ice dispenser. Amanda emerged with a bright smile that seemed forced. "How about a special cocktail family recipe she offered already? Mixing drinks." The cocktail tasted slightly bitter, but I sipped it to be polite. Throughout the day, Amanda kept refreshing my drink, insisting it was a celebration. By evening, I felt unusually tired and slightly disoriented. During dinner, Tyler asked if I could help him buy something online. "The reception here is terrible for my phone," he explained. When I pulled out my phone to let him use it, I noticed several family members watching intently as I unlocked it with my fingerprint and entered my banking password to check my balance before handing it over. Later, I caught Jake holding my phone, claiming he had found it on the counter. "Screen lit up with some notifications," he said casually. "Thought you might want it." That night, I fell asleep almost immediately after dinner, a deep, heavy sleep that was unusual for me. When I woke the next morning, my head felt foggy, and my mouth was dry, as if I had been drugged. As everyone gathered for breakfast on the final day of the reunion, I checked my bank account out of habit before starting the drive home. The shock of seeing only $17.62 in my account made me gasp audibly. Everyone at the table turned to look at me. I refreshed the app repeatedly, but the balance remained the same. The transaction history showed multiple transfers over the past 36 hours to accounts I did not recognize. My entire savings, nearly $38,000, that I had been saving for a house down payment, was gone. I immediately called my bank, stepping outside for privacy. The representative confirmed the transfers had all been authenticated using my device and correct passwords. The cold reality washed over me like ice water. This whole reunion had been a setup. When I walked back inside, my hands were shaking with anger and shock. Amanda was clearing dishes, humming as if nothing was wrong. "My money is gone," I said quietly. "All of it. Transferred out over the past day and a half." Amanda turned, her expression briefly confused, before settling into something harder, colder. "What are you talking about?" "Do not play dumb," I said, my voice rising. $38,000. Every cent I have saved over the past 10 years. Someone transferred it out while I was here, and the only people with access to my phone were in this house. Jake entered the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. "Sounds like you have got a banking problem, buddy. Better call customer service." His smirk gave him away. "You drugged me," I said, the pieces falling into place. "The cocktails. That is why I slept so heavily. You used my fingerprint while I was unconscious to access my accounts." Amanda dropped the act. "You have always had it easy, Garry. We have 3 kids and bills piling up. We needed that money more than you." Her words struck me like a physical blow. Easy, I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. I lived on ramen and worked 60-hour weeks for years to save that money. Jake stepped forward, no longer bothering to hide his contempt. "Your sister told me how your father always favored you. Gave you the opportunities while she got nothing. Consider this evening the score." "You planned this whole thing," I said, the realization dawning fully. "The reunion, the reconciliation, all of it." Amanda shrugged. "We have been planning it for months. You were always so predictable, Garry. So desperate for family that you would walk right into it." "I am calling the police," I said, reaching for my phone. Jake laughed. "Go ahead. It is your word against your entire family, and you will not do it anyway. You would never send your own sister to jail." The rest of the family had heard the commotion and entered the kitchen. Their faces showed no surprise, only a strange mixture of satisfaction and mild guilt. "You all knew about this?" I asked, looking at each face in turn. "Garry, try to understand," Aunt Barbara said soothingly. "Amanda and Jake have the children to think about. That big house in Chicago, all that money just sitting in your account while your own flesh and blood struggles." Uncle Tom nodded. "Family takes care of family. You have been out of the picture for years, living it up in the city. My cousin Tyler could not even meet my eyes. We just distracted you, man. No harm in that." Amanda stepped closer, her voice suddenly gentle, as if speaking to a child. "You owe us, Garry. Dad always gave you everything. The attention, the praise. Even when you left us all behind you, were his favorite. I almost laughed at the absurdity. The attention I got was his fists, Amanda. The praise was him telling me I would amount to nothing. What fantasy version of our childhood are you remembering? Jake put his arm around Amanda. Look, what is done. And it is not just the transfers. We have opened a few loans in your name, too. Excellent credit score, by the way. Should keep us comfortable for quite a while. The casual way he admitted to identity theft stunned me. You realize that is a federal crime. The entire family laughed. The sound echoed in the kitchen, bouncing off the walls like a physical force. What are you going to do about it? Jake taunted. Call the FBI on your sister, on your aunt and uncle, on the only family you have. Face it, Garry. You are alone, and you always will be. In that moment, a strange calm washed over me. The fear and anger receded, replaced by absolute clarity. I remembered my phone disappearing while I showered yesterday. I recalled the hushed conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. It all made perfect sense now. I had wanted so badly to believe in reconciliation and family healing that I had ignored every warning sign. But now, looking at their smug faces, I saw my family clearly for the first time. Not as I wished they were, but as they truly were. I reached slowly for my bag that was sitting on the counter. Then you won't mind what's coming next. Jake snorted with laughter. What you gonna cry about it? Call Mommy. Oh wait, she does not care either. The rest of the family joined in his laughter, a chorus of mockery that filled the kitchen. Their laughter was still echoing when a thunderous bang shook the front door. The sound of splintering wood was followed by heavy footsteps. The door to the kitchen flew open, and 3 police officers entered, followed by a woman in a suit who held up an FBI badge. FBI. Everyone stay where you are, she announced, her voice cutting through the suddenly silent room. I am Agent Rivera. We have a warrant to search these premises in connection with wire fraud and identity theft. The color drained from Jake's face as an officer handed him the warrant. Amanda stumbled backward until she hit the counter, her mouth opening and closing without sound. What is happening? Aunt Barbara shrieked. Garry, what did you do? Agent Rivera nodded to me briefly before addressing the room. We have been investigating Mr. Sullivan here for several months, in connection with multiple identity theft and banking fraud cases across 3 states. Jake pointed a trembling finger at me. Him. You are arresting him. The agent smiled thinly. Not him. You, Mr. Sullivan. Along with Amanda Sullivan, and potentially others in this room, depending on what we find on your devices. I watched as comprehension dawned on their faces. My wallet did not just fall behind the dresser yesterday, I explained quietly. When I could not find it, I knew something was wrong. I have been scammed before in Chicago. It makes you careful. That is when you called us. Agent Rivera confirmed, and agreed to wear the recording device. I nodded, pulling the small microphone from underneath my shirt. The moment my wallet went missing, I contacted the FBI through their online portal. When Agent Rivera called me back, I realized this might not be a spontaneous theft, but something more calculated. We have been building a case against Jake Sullivan for over a year, the agent explained, as officers began securing the scene. He has pulled similar scams with other families, usually targeting estranged relatives with good credit and savings. We just needed concrete evidence to connect him to the digital trails we had found. You recorded us, Amanda whispered, her face ashen. Your own family. Family does not steal from family, I replied simply, and they definitely do not commit federal crimes against them. Jake lunged toward me, but an officer restrained him before he could reach me. You son of a bitch, he screamed as they handcuffed him. You set us up. No, Jake. You set yourselves up. I just made sure there would be consequences. I watched as they led Jake, Amanda, and to my surprise, Tyler away in handcuffs. Aunt Barbara and Uncle Tom were taken in for questioning. Agent Rivera explained they had found evidence on Jake's laptop linking him to at least 4 other similar schemes. Most of your money is probably already gone, she told me apologetically. Transferred through multiple accounts offshore. We will do everything we can to recover it, but I cannot make promises. The drive back to Chicago was the longest 6 hours of my life. The elation of justice served quickly gave way to a profound emptiness. I had lost my savings, but more importantly, I had lost the hope of ever having a real family. The following months were the darkest of my life. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket. I had to start my financial life over the dream of owning a home now years away again. Every time I checked my bank account, anxiety would grip me so tightly I could barely breathe. Letters began arriving from county jail. Amanda wrote weekly, sometimes blaming Jake for everything, other times begging forgiveness. He manipulated me, one letter claimed. I never wanted to hurt you, but he convinced me you owed us this. I never responded to any of them. The court proceedings were painful. Jake's defense attorney tried to paint me as the villain, the selfish brother who abandoned his family and deserved to have his money taken. Some distant relatives I barely knew testified to my cold and calculating nature growing up. 6 months after the reunion, I hit rock bottom. Sitting alone in my apartment on Thanksgiving, I could not remember the last time I had felt genuinely happy. The walls seemed to close in around me, and for a brief, terrifying moment, I considered whether life was worth continuing. The next day at work, my coworker David noticed something was wrong. "You have not been yourself for months, Garry," he said during lunch. "I know we are not close, but if you need to talk, I am here." Something about his genuine concern broke through my isolation. That night, I told him everything over beers at a local pub. Instead of the pity I expected, he offered me information about a support group for victims of family financial abuse. "My cousin went through something similar," he explained. "These groups help. At the very least, you will see you are not alone." Reluctantly, I attended a meeting the following week. Sitting in a circle of strangers in a community center basement, I listened as others shared stories painfully similar to mine. Parents stealing children's identities, siblings emptying joint accounts, cousins taking out fraudulent loans. A woman named Sarah spoke about her brother cleaning out her retirement account while she was undergoing cancer treatment. "The money hurt," she said, "but the betrayal nearly killed me. For months, I could not trust anyone." After the meeting, Sarah approached me. "First meetings are the hardest," she said, with a gentle smile. "But it gets better. We all learn to build new boundaries, to recognize the manipulation tactics we missed before." Over the following months, the support group became my lifeline. I learned that my desire for family connection had made me vulnerable to manipulation. I began to recognize the subtle red flags I had ignored with Amanda and Jake. Working with my bank's fraud department, I helped them improve their security protocols for detecting unusual patterns of transfers. The process of explaining how I had been victimized over and over to different departments gradually desensitized me to the shame I had been carrying. Surprisingly, I discovered I had a talent for helping others protect themselves. What began as casual advice to coworkers evolved into weekend workshops at the community center on recognizing financial abuse and securing personal information. 2 years after the reunion incident, Jake was convicted of wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. He received 8 years in federal prison. Amanda took a plea deal for 3 years, claiming Jake had coerced her participation. Whether that was true or not, I would never know for certain. The FBI managed to recover about 30% of my money. Not enough for the house I had dreamed of, but sufficient to restart my savings with new stringent security measures in place. More importantly, I had rebuilt my life with relationships based on authenticity rather than obligation. David became a close friend along with several people from the support group. Sarah and I began dating after a year of friendship, our shared experience creating a foundation of understanding that made trust possible again. I came to realize that family is not defined by blood, but by mutual respect and care. The people who showed up for me when I was at my lowest became my true family. They earned my trust through consistency and kindness, never through guilt or manipulation. The hardship revealed a strength in me I never knew existed. Being forced to start over financially taught me resilience. The betrayal, painful as it was, freed me from toxic bonds that had masqueraded as family ties. I found an unexpected gift in authenticity. Without the shadow of my past hanging over me, I could build relationships based on who I truly was, not who I thought I should be to earn acceptance. Trust, I learned, must be earned, not automatically given. This boundary is not cynicism, but wisdom. Forgiveness came eventually not for their benefit, but for my own freedom. I forgave Amanda and Jake not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. The most profound lesson was that my worth was never tied to others' approval. The validation I had sought from my family could only truly come from within myself. Today, I find family in unexpected places. In the community we build around us, in the chosen connections that nourish rather than deplete us. And sometimes in the strangers who become beloved because they see our wounds and still choose to stay. Have you ever had to rebuild trust after a betrayal? What boundaries have you created to protect yourself while still allowing genuine connection? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear they are not alone. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, the family that matters most is the one that proves their love through actions, not just blood.